burden. So we'd start to see the mood thing, you know, very up and then very quiet. And a lot of that was when she'd be writing.
In writing, she found an outlet for her pent-up feelings, but she also found something else to help her deal with her home life.
The first time actually that we ever smoked grass together, I think maybe we were 11 or 12, and you know, we knew that it had to be rolled because we had kind of heard that, but we didn't know what to do, so all we had was notebook paper. So we rolled it up in the notebook paper, and they're like flames. I don't remember getting high, but I do remember paper cuts.
While Carrie was starting to experiment with drugs, her mother was trying to solve her financial situation. No longer the movie star she once was, Debbie Reynolds supported her family by creating a stage act.
I'd hammer of danger, I'd hammer out a warning.
It was while performing in Las Vegas that she decided to try and replicate the success of Judy Garland and her daughter Liza Minnelli. Performing on stage was something Carrie didn't have to think twice about.
One of the main things Carrie had going for her, of course, was the fact that she had grown up all her life in the midst of the golden era of Hollywood in the 50s and 60s, and she was totally comfortable around the greatest directors and actresses of that day. And I think she was so at home in the Hollywood milieu that it was probably a very easy transition for her to do that.
In 1971, her mother used her connections to secure Carrie a small part in the chorus of the musical Irene. But to take the job, Carrie would have to drop out of school and join her mother in New York City.
By then, Carrie was already losing interest in school. I mean, the pace was just way too slow for her. Her mind is incredibly fast. She absorbs information and decides what she likes and doesn't like that.
And what Carrie did like was show business. It was while performing in New York that she decided to become an actress like her mother. Unlike the other young actresses in the cast, however, she wouldn't have to struggle to find work. Success would come easily and quickly, as Carrie was cast in one of the most successful films ever made. In 1973, when she was 17, Carrie Fisher had already dropped out of school to act alongside her mother in the musical Irene. That year, a friend of Debbie Reynolds suggested Carrie for a small but quirky part in Warren Beatty's new film, Shampoo. The role called for a young and disaffected nymphette from Beverly Hills, a part that Carrie had been living for the last couple of years. As for meeting Warren Beatty, Carrie wasn't nervous. She'd been around famous people her whole life.
So I had like white makeup on, short hair, and I was always going and buying these nylon dresses and these velvet jackets and have a bird pin on and these weird ass shoes and incredibly weird bags. So I went to see Warren, and it was like I looked like Marcel Marceau. He made me wash my face. And then I just talked to him for a while, and he said, okay, you can do it.
So I read the script, and it had a very major word in it. And I said, I really don't think you want to do your first movie where you say, oh, would you like to, me? I said, I don't think so. I was beaten down by Warren Beatty and my daughter, Carrie Fisher. I lost.
No, they're not. I'm nothing like my mother.
I'm not trying to insult you, you know? Can't we just, be friends?
Okay. You wanna...
Although Shampoo was not a big box office hit, it was a hit with the critics. And even though hers was just a bit part, Carrie was singled out by Hollywood insiders as one to watch out for. Casting directors rushed to get her on the phone. While the attention was something most young actresses would have killed for, Carrie didn't take it too seriously. She seemed more interested in partying with her friends.
She wanted to have fun, of course. In fact, she was the leader of fun for our group. I mean, she was, you know, the John Wayne of fun.
But the fun she was having was beginning to worry her mother, and Debbie decided to send her daughter to London's Central School of Drama.
I always felt, and I think it's true, that my mother, the sense, the ooze of what the message was from mother's end was that I was designed or brought in to bring respectability to the family.
As well as studying acting, Carrie immersed herself in reading the great playwrights.
Chekhov, Shakespeare, Ibsen, Restoration comedy. That was one of the happiest times of my life.
You know, she was away from her friends, she was away from her mainstream, and, you know, getting postcards from Carrie, who was the prolific writer of all times, was a joy for all of us.
After 2 years in London, Carrie finally got the kind of training her mother had hoped for, and she was asked to audition for a 31-year-old director named George Lucas. He was casting for an ambitious but low-budget science fiction film he was calling Star Wars. Lucas interviewed over 500 actresses for the leading female role, Princess Leia.
I was looking for somebody who was very, very young, because she was supposed to be a young princess, and at the same time very commanding, very tough, very sure of herself. You know, Carrie was like that. She was 19 years old, yet she had a lot of experience. She was very in control of the situation at all times.
After another round of exhaustive interviews and this rarely seen screen test, the part of Princess Leia was Carrie Fisher's.
The plans and specifications to a battle station with enough firepower to destroy an entire system. Our only hope in destroying it is to find its weakness.
Carrie's co-stars were relative unknowns. Mark Hamill would play her long-lost brother, Luke Skywalker. Han Solo went to a repping actor named Harrison Ford.
Nobody had any idea of what we were doing would look like. I mean, we had giants dressed up in furry dog suits, and I mean, it was bizarre.
The part of Princess Leia called for Carrie to have her hair done in a particularly memorable style.
Oh, everybody made fun of her hairstyle. It was unusual.
A lot of the Star Wars shoot was unusual.
It's too late!
A great deal of the acting took place in front of a blue screen. Computer-generated action would be added later. After 10 weeks of shooting on various sound stages in London, Carrie still had no idea what the finished film was going to look like.
One day she invites me to the screening down at 20th Century Fox and said, will you go with me? And I'm really embarrassed. I think it's going to be really, I think it's going to be a bomb, is what she's telling me. She thinks it's a B movie. And of course, that spaceship flew over in the first 15 seconds of the movie, and she and I looked at each other and went, whoa, this is going to be something special.
I can't hold off forever. Now what?
Some rescue. When you came in here, didn't you have a plan for getting out?
Keep the brakes, sweetheart. Well, I didn't. What the hell are you doing?
Somebody has to save our skins.
The film is about Princess Leia. It's her story. It's about her struggle as a revolutionary to overcome the evil empire.
I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Princess Leia was this very empowered and independent and strong figure. Carrie was an incredible mass of energy, verbal energy, physical energy, and she was just a force of nature.
Star Wars proved that Hollywood could still make epic films. After years of gritty independent films like Serpico and Midnight Cowboy, the big studio blockbuster was back. In only her second picture, Carrie Fisher had become a household name. No longer just the daughter of Debbie and Eddie, by 1977, she was a star in her own right.
Good luck.
I was knocked off my seat. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, my daughter looking the way she did, and her performance.
I became Princess Leia's mother instead of she being Debbie Reynolds' daughter. It all changed.
Carrie Fisher's second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back, was released in 1980.
The energy shield can only be opened for a short time, so you'll have to stay very close to your transports.
Many fans considered this sequel better than the original. It was darker and the plot lines were more fully developed, especially Carrie's role.
Why are they doing this?
There was a certain kind of chemistry between Han Solo and Princess Leia that was something that just sort of begged to be exploited, and so we managed to keep her a rebel fighter but still put a feminine romantic side to it.
I love you.
I know.
After only 3 films, Carrie Fisher had now been seen by more moviegoers than any other actress in history. She seemed happy for the attention. The reality, however, was a different matter.
Carrie always looked more self-possessed than she later on admitted to being. So I think at the time she looked like the whole thing was a kind of lark. You know, looking back, she probably was scared to death.
The ante went up. I was offered Grease to play the part of Hoo-Ha, the friend and the singing slut, and I turned that down. I couldn't deal.
As if to compensate for that fear, the 24-year-old surrounded herself with a new assortment of celebrity friends, including the cast of Saturday Night Live, especially John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. It was a fast crowd, a high-octane mix of celebrity, cocaine, and rock and roll.
There was a lot of drugs. If you went out, left your apartment, you know, at 8 o'clock, you weren't going to be back till 7 the next morning if you went running with them.
Look, I'm not an idiot. Drugs were really fun for me at a certain time, and I am not an advocate of dope at all. Yes, I'd already snorted heroin. I was somebody that there was no line that I crossed. There was no line.
In addition to heroin, she went on cocaine and LSD binges. She even told a doctor she felt normal on acid. But on the days when she was drug-free, Carrie would explore her quiet, introspective side, spending hours at home, reading and writing pages of poetry and fiction.
Carrie did not even care about show business that bad. It just fell in her lap. Yeah, she's a good actress. You know, she's not a great actress. You know, she's a good actress, but she's a great writer.
Carrie decided to make a big change. In the midst of a blossoming and lucrative film career, she applied and was accepted to college. But breaking free from show business was not going to be easy. Carrie's good friends John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd convinced her to join the cast of their new movie, The Blues Brothers, based on their enormously popular comedy skit. The film was a big hit with young fans and a break from the Princess Leia routine. Back on her home ground in Los Angeles, Carrie celebrated her good fortune with extra hard partying.
I was never around her, ever, when any of us took anything, ever. No. No, as a matter of fact, I met Carrie at a 4-H club meeting, and we've been raising heifers ever since. Yes, I did, I did, and we were. And it was a lot of fun, and it was also horrible.
Somehow, Carrie still clung to her idea of going to college in the autumn. But it was while she was in LA that she would meet someone who would change those plans, singer and songwriter Paul Simon. At first, the two seemed to be a good match. Carrie was impressed by Paul's skills as a writer, and he liked her wicked sense of humor. Both were bright, articulate, and worldly. But as time went by, their relationship grew increasingly complicated.
They both have huge personalities. You know, the truth is, you know, Carrie was also, you know, doing some drugs during that relationship, too.
Carrie never did go to college. Instead of writing term papers, she wrote postcards from the many trips she took with Paul Simon. Her life became increasingly consumed by the relationship, and soon her friends began to notice Paul's career coming first.
And I think that was incredibly painful and difficult. And I think he was very critical of her, and that possibly went along the whole relationship. I don't know, but he was very demanding.
For once, Carrie's neglected career provided her with a means of escape. She left Paul and in 1982 was called back to work on the third Star Wars film, The Return of the Jedi. Whatever satisfaction acting had given her was a thing of the past.
Well, I'm not sure, how much in the end after Star Wars she actually wanted to be an actress. But, basically she was able to hold it together professionally and do her job and do it well.
After her third and final Star Wars film, Carrie seemed to retreat from the world around her, isolating herself from her family and spending less time with her celebrity friends. The only thing she seemed to need was drugs.
It was alarming to us because she'd sort of lost her spark. She has this high watt voltage, right behind the eyeballs that were always lit and just this huge amount of energy, and that wasn't happening.
Comedy actor John Belushi died today in Los Angeles.
John Belushi's death on March the 5th, 1982 was the final blow. The party was over.
There are unconfirmed reports linking his death to a possible cocaine overdose.
I spoke to Carrie the day he died, and she was really, really devastated.
And he was adorable. But one time he said to me, you and I were alike.
Belushi's death forced Carrie to take stock of her own life and scrutinize her behavior. She stopped the cocaine and the partying, and she resurrected her relationship with Paul Simon. Despite the problems that had beset them before, they decided to try and make the relationship work. On August the 16th, 1983, the couple moved to New York. But they quickly returned to their old ways.
There was 2 flowers, no gardener. I tried so hard, but I'd been brought up as a flower. I figured out what he needed was an intellectual geisha, and I wanted to give it. I didn't want to be unhappy in the thing. I didn't want to be a disappointment.
After a stormy 11 months, during which time she had a miscarriage, the marriage to Paul Simon ended in divorce. Carrie moved back to Los Angeles and bought a small home in Beverly Hills. She begrudgingly accepted a few film roles, but after box office failures like Garbo Talks and The Man with One Red Shoe, producers and directors backed away from casting her in leading roles again. Her friend Penny Marshall began to notice enormous manic-depressive mood swings in Carrie, and even gave each side of her personality a name.
Well, Roy is her manic side, Pam is her downside, and I've seen her go under the covers for days because she'd get exhausted by the manic side.
By 1985, Carrie had sunk into a deep depression. At the age of 29, after a stellar beginning, Carrie Fisher was a washed-up has-been. By 1985, Carrie Fisher was in a deep depression. Her drug use began to escalate once again. This time, however, it was prescription drugs, in particular painkillers and sleeping pills. Some days she would take as many as 40 pills. Friends said she was capable of falling asleep mid-sentence.
She would get these drugs and then get kind of loaded, and quite honestly, early on, I didn't quite know what it meant. Sometimes I thought she was just acting like a lunatic.
I had a sense that I was kind of eccentric, and I really wanted you to like me. I wanted you to just like me. I wanted to be the best person you ever met, which is exhausting, and maybe not notice that something is, over here, which is the 2 things that I got going. I've got the manic depression, which I don't even understand, and I've got its little friend, the addiction.
In March 1985, the inevitable happened. She overdosed. Carrie was rushed to hospital where she had her stomach pumped. After several hours, she finally regained consciousness.
I was terrified by what happened. Honestly, I thought, I don't know how the hell that happened. That was not my intention.
At the age of 29, Carrie Fisher had hit rock bottom. Once she'd realized this, she checked herself into a clinic for drug addiction and manic depression treatment.
I went right into 12-step. I was really scared of what I had done to myself without intending to. So I got very, very busy.
Carrie spent over a month in the clinic. She didn't think about a future, just about getting better again. But a call out of the blue offered her a lifeline. An editor at Simon & Schuster Publishers, who had no idea she was in drug rehab, told Carrie he was impressed by an interview she'd given Esquire magazine some months before. He liked her unorthodox views on celebrity life. Would she be interested in writing a series of essays? It was the golden opportunity that could save her. Writing had always been her passion. Acting was simply the career she'd inherited from her parents.
She had to reinvent herself, to dig down and come up with, you know, with a voice, with a new identity. And I think it must have been tremendously healing.
But Carrie didn't want to just write abstract essays. She convinced the publisher to let her write a novel drawn from her experiences as an actress and recovering drug addict. They liked the idea, and Carrie started pouring her thoughts onto paper with a kind of enthusiasm she hadn't felt before.
It was very exciting, and I think very cathartic, and very important, and very honest, incredibly honest, which is part of what's necessary to be in recovery. Self-honesty, self-searching.
After nearly a year of work, Carrie had the makings of a book. The story dealt with a fictional actress named Suzanne who tries to scrape together her life after drug rehabilitation. Once the manuscript had been sent off, she waited for their response. The editors loved it. She had just the tone they were looking for. Together, they came up with Postcards from the Edge, a reference to Carrie's lifelong custom of sending zany postcards from the road. In 1987, the book was published.
I think it took a lot of people by surprise, the fact that she had this incredible writerly voice. I think she captured an essence of late 80s rehab and drug excess that was absolutely dead on and incredibly dark and sardonic and clever.
Postcards was an instant sensation and quickly climbed the bestseller lists.
You know her as an actress, but based on all the reviews, her new book puts her into a new line of prominence. The book is Postcards from the Edge. Do you wake up every day saying, I'm addicted?
No, it's not at all. Those are like little moments of, uh-oh, this could be beginning to be a problem. But I didn't take drugs every day.
But not everyone was knocked out by the book. People magazine voted Postcards one of the worst of the year and suggested the novel be retitled A Minor Celebrity's Disjointed Musings on How a Hollywood Brat Tries to Make Sense of Her Chaotic Life.
Well, he basically thought I wasn't funny, and I thought I was funny. He thought I felt sorry for myself. I really don't, but maybe I had areas where I did or seemed like I did.
She was so busy writing, she didn't have time to dwell on the negatives. Director Mike Nichols, a longtime friend from New York, bought the rights to the book and asked Carrie to adapt the book for the screen. The final product attracted the best of Hollywood's heavyweights: Meryl Streep, Shirley MacLaine, and Jack Nicholson. And Mike Nichols asked Carrie for a substantial revision, one that involved changing the lead character's mother into a drunk.
Will you please tell me what is this awful thing I did to you when you were a child?
You want to know?
I want to know. Tell
okay,
me.
fine. From the time I was 9 years old, you gave me sleeping pills.
That was over-the-counter medication, and I gave it to you because you couldn't
give children
sleep.
sleeping pills.
They were
People thought that the movie was me. You know, that was embarrassing to me in a lot of ways, because everybody said, so sorry, Debbie, about that postcards, but oh, so sorry. I said, it's okay. It's all right, because it really wasn't about me.
Carrie continued to mine her personal life for stories, and in 1989 she published Surrender the Pink, a fictionalized account of her relationship with Paul Simon. Although the book didn't match Postcards in sales, it continued to fortify Carrie's reputation as a writer. And just as Carrie began to feel more confident in her craft, she began to be offered roles in which she felt more comfortable. Her supporting part in When Harry Met Sally made people rethink their opinions of her talent.
Oh, she's so wonderful in that film, and funny, and strong, and so much of what she is, and yet pared down and in such a normal relationship, you know, with a kind of normal guy. It's just so interesting.
She also found happiness in her own love life. 6 years after her divorce from Paul Simon, she met and fell in love with Brian Lord, a talent agent. In 1991, they announced they were expecting a baby. Carrie was elated. Her life seemed at last to be coming together. But her newfound contentment was not to last. By 1992, Carrie Fisher had finally found her niche in Hollywood. She was a writer first and an actress second. At 36, she was free from the ravages of drug addiction and was happily expecting her first child with Brian Lord. On July the 17th, she introduced a new member of the Fisher family, Billy Catherine.
When she became a mother, it really centered her in a lot of different ways in terms of not giving in as easily to the kinds of influences that she would just sort of give up and go her own way.
Carrie had learned firsthand about what it was like to grow up the child of Hollywood celebrities and was determined to raise her daughter in private, away from the cameras. Within a few months, however, that privacy was seriously tested. Just as her father had left her mother when she was an infant, so Brian Lord left Carrie when their daughter was less than 2 years old. But unlike her mother, who lost her husband to Elizabeth Taylor, Carrie was left for another man.
It seemed to come from left field, and it was very hard. It was very hard. She was, well, stunned.
After the shock of rejection, Carrie began to put together a life as a single mother and started work on her third novel, Delusions of Grandma, which loosely followed her failed relationship with Brian.
Carrie is a person who knows that her territory is herself, her own head, her own mind, and she's always known kind of this little secret thing of if you tell it, it can't hurt you. If you tell it and you don't hide it, it can't surprise you.
Carrie's ability to transpose real-life situations into dialogue was in great demand in Hollywood. Producers and directors started sending her scripts, discreetly asking her to improve the lines written for leading actresses like Whoopi Goldberg and Meryl Streep.
Sometimes it has to do with structural things, but I think mostly she gets work in terms of good dialogue because she's very, very clever. She's very witty.
By 1997, Carrie's work and home life seemed to be well under control. But as if on cue, another episode turned everything upside down. In March, Carrie made a change in her medication for manic depression. The effect was noticeable immediately. One of the side effects was non-stop talking.
She was like stuck in high gears. That's the way I could explain it. It was like a record on 78. It was extreme, very extreme.
For the second time in her life, Carrie was rushed to hospital. After 6 days, the doctors were convinced she'd finally snapped.
And I was so frightened. And I didn't know what the hell was happening, but it was bad. It was as bad as it gets.
Finally, after a steady dose of chloral hydrate, Carrie's manic mood subsided.
It was very scary because it was a mental break. And that is something that nobody can handle, accepting the finest doctors and care. And I think that we were all very fortunate that she was able to come out of it.
Just as she had done in the past, Carrie came through with her sense of humor intact. In 1998, she returned to her work as script doctor, writing a good deal of the sharp and witty dialogue between Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler in the hit comedy The Wedding Singer. Then word came that a tell-all book by her father, Eddie Fisher, was in the pipeline. Carrie was concerned the book would hurt her mother and desperately tried to talk him out of it.
I warned him weeping, I warned him yelling, I warned him every way that you can do. begged him, pleaded, and he had to do it. He wanted to be famous, and if he can't do it singing in any other way that's honest, then do it like this. Then talk about how the wives were of the famous women that you slept with. Do that. Why would that upset me?
After the publication, Carrie cut all ties with her father. As for Eddie, he continues to live in hope that the rift will one day heal.
She is an incredible, incredible girl. She'll always be a baby to me. And I hope, come home to Daddy, Carrie.
When you've gotten past the energy shield, proceed directly to the rendezvous point. Understood?
If acting was Carrie Fisher's introduction to stardom and the resulting celebrity led to drugs and self-destruction, then writing has become her salvation.
Fisher has conquered her demons with a wonderfully funny, brash, biting novel.
I think Carrie's got a voice of integrity and honesty that I think will last far longer than some of the films that she's been in.
Carrie was always, in my opinion, trying to make herself well. She was not trying to entertain herself.
You would think, gee, I did Star Wars, I made a lot of money. Sure, I blew it all, big deal. I still very successful. You could say I've done enough. But the funny thing is that even though Carrie has done enough, she doesn't think so.
I think that my daughter, Carrie Fisher, is very gifted and a very kind and good person, compassionate, talented, and I'm just so lucky we all have her.
It may sound great, all the glitz and glamour of being a Hollywood offspring, but it certainly does have some downsides too. Now imagine reading about your parents' affairs in the tabloids, or competing with your mum in the cosmetic anti-aging department. All to be revealed in Mothers and Daughters in Hollywood, coming to you next.